Oh, what a collection of tunes. Keisha left in 2009 and is still working as a singer-songwriter and still just 34, is that right? Is that a misprint? That's unbelievable. I can't believe that you've gone through all this, all that, and you're still just 34. It's time to start your life now, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, well, I tell social media, you know, and all my nieces and nephews that I'm 25 forever. So, Mia, if you're listening, this is my niece, Mia, you know, it's alleged that I'm 34. Auntie is 25, okay? But yeah, no, it's been an amazing journey for sure, and one that I'm definitely proud of.
So you started, as I said, when you were 13, is that right?
Yeah, actually, it was, we started originally like when we were 11 and 12.
Oh my goodness.
And then we got signed when we were like 13, released our first single at 14 and 15.
So how come you got into the music business at that level so young?
Well, basically, I went to school with Mutya. And we would sing together all the time. And Mutya would always, you know, go to the studio. She was singing and doing like Michael Barrymore, My Kind of People, like from very, very early.
So she was on the telly?
Yeah, she did things like that. And we would just sing together all the time, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey songs, TLC. And then one day she said to me, you know, Keish, like, I'd really love for you to come to the studio with me, keep me company, because I'm about to record a song with a girl called Siobhan. Like, we know each other through mutual friends. So the plan was for them to record something, and I was just the friend tagging along, because believe it or not, Mutya was painfully shy.
I don't. Well,
Honestly,
actually, no, I can believe that.
She was a real introvert and just wasn't completely different to what we see today. And I just was reading a magazine, and our manager at the time, Ron Tom, he came out and he said, "Hey, like, you know, Mutya says you guys sing together, sang something," and he was like, "Would you like to record with the girls today?" And then literally that was it. And we just happened to blend together with our harmonies. It was like we sang exactly the same, but with different tones, singing tones, and that was it. And we just started writing, and
who was doing the writing at that point?
Well, we had always written in form of poetry. I know for me, from when I was really, really young, the way I would just express myself when there was anything, I guess, traumatic going on, I would always just put it on in a rhyme, basically. So when it came to us recording really, really early, they asked us about that. Do you songwrite? Like, well, no, but we kind of like do poems here and there. They were like, okay, well, this is what it is. Put a melody to it. Yeah. So we were really pushed into that very, very early, and with a live band very early as well. Yeah.
And what do you? I mean, obviously you had a unique sound, and you know you were very talented and unique in that you wrote your own songs. What do you think it was initially that producers, PR people saw in you three? I mean, I would think it's quite obvious, but I wonder what you think it was.
Looking back, I think it was because it was a raw talent, and I honestly feel like it was very London. It was very organic, and like I said, we grew up together, and back then you didn't have the X Factor and the Pop Idol and stuff, so we didn't have like aspirations of being stars. We literally were like three girls from Northwest London who wanted to sing, who liked to write their own stuff, and just was like, oh, what? Like, I remember we did Top of the Pops, and we were like, oh, we're going to be on TV. Oh, cool. And I think the press at the time, we had our first album was critically acclaimed. We went on the Enemy tour. You know, we did Glastonbury. We did really cool stuff, you know, Jules Holland. And I think at the time, it was like we were labelled the girl band you're allowed to like. Yeah. And it was because we were not groomed. They threw us in front of the camera, and now when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, Keisha, smile, damn it, smile. You know, but it was so raw. It was like, hi, we're happy to be here. We'd be coughing, and I'm looking, whereas all the rest of the girl bands were just so, they were so polished.
Yeah, well, maybe you felt and looked authentic.
Yeah, we were odd-looking children as well. That's another thing as well, which I think worked in our favour. You know, the redhead, you know, Mutya's Filipino. And I don't think people, even though London's a very multicultural place, I don't think people were used to seeing that on their screens. And we just never smiled. Well, we smiled behind closed doors. And this is the thing, back in the day, when you're a teenager and you're taking pictures, as soon as someone gets the camera up, you don't smile because it's just cooler just to,
absolutely,
you know, smile.
But what do you think you must know, what is the effect of effectively growing up as a pop star?
I think, looking back now, I wish I cared less about the perception of, you know, other people. I feel like you get dealt with quite harshly. When you're growing up, you can have fallouts. Like, even to this day, like 2 of my friends fell out last year, now they're friends again. You know, it's very normal for people to have disagreements. But then when you have it inside of a group, it's sensationalized, and then it's harder to recover from.
Do you think it's sensationalised more because it's girls, women, or not?
Facts. I absolutely believe that, because I know, obviously, behind the scenes, especially before social media, we used to hear about loads of things, whether it was, you know, the boy band 5 getting into fist fights. And, you know, we never got into anything like physical, really. It was more just like we're not talking to each other. In fact, we hardly argued. It was just that there was an atmosphere. And I think, women are just dealt with completely different. And it was really unfair, actually.
Teenagehood is tough enough, isn't it? When you're trying to do your teenagehood in the glare of the spotlight with everybody looking on, it kind of amplifies all that stuff, doesn't it? It makes it harder.
For sure. And then you're trying to balance all the emotions. And I think for me personally, you know, I was kind of taken away from my friends, lived this amazing life. But then when I came back and had like the random day off, because your life's not really planned, all my friends were busy and life had gone on. And I always say I left my friends when everyone was just starting to do the kissing thing. And I was like, and that's where I left it. So you imagine I'm going on tour and then I get back to my friends and everyone's moved on doing other things. And they look at me like I'm the weirdo. And
quite lonely.
Yeah, it was very lonely. I think that's where my mum's advice was like, Keisha, enjoy your company. Because I had a bit of a down period where I was like, you know, even though I had the girls, it's completely different because your friends are all moving on. They don't relate to you anymore. And that was quite sad.
It's a tough thing too, isn't it? That when you're in a band like that comes from a specific place and a real social scene, success takes you out of it, doesn't it? So you no longer have that kind of infrastructure around you to inform your songwriting and what you do. And all of a sudden it's all just kind of airports and buses and things.
Yeah, and actually the hardest thing for me actually was the realisation that I had to find out who I was. That's why I always say the departure from the Sugababes, and I didn't leave actually, I was like replaced.
Encouraged to seek fresh new challenges.
in the most brutal way, yeah. You know, but the hardest thing, it was, you know, it's one of the best things that happened to me actually on a personal level, because I was able to really dig deep and figure out who I was, because I had zero identity. I was just Keisha from the Sugababes.
Well, I'm trying to work out when you left. So how it was 2009? How old would you have been? So 10 years ago, 24?
15.
He said it right. Possibly 25, 26.
Goodness
possibly,
sake.
but really 15. Yeah. So.
Goodness me. Well, we'll come back to that, but I wanted to go back to something you said earlier, because you said that a lot of your songwriting was informed by perhaps traumatic things that had gone on in your life. And I mean, we all have a degree of that. But I know that, I mean, it wasn't particularly easy growing up because you had to move around a lot. You were in B&Bs with your mum and your brother as well. Is that right?
Yeah, my mum, my brother. I think, you know, there were a lot of traumas. You know, we had, you know, sporadically through the time of being in the band, we had different people who would, you know, be there, like, I guess, looking after us and chaperoning us. And I really felt like, you know, there was, you know, I personally experienced a lot of like mental, you know, abuse and a lot of that was going on. And that made me react in a way that was just, you know, when you see someone have a meltdown, which actually has taught me a lot of empathy for people, because when you see someone having a meltdown, sometimes you got to dig beneath and go, why is this person doing that? And there were things that I couldn't articulate as a child growing up that was happening around me.
What did your mum make of everything that was going on? Because you talk about having a great influence on you, and I know that it was difficult growing up and that you moved around a lot, but she tried to make the best of it for you so that you had a good life. But I mean, was she all right with you going off to do all this stuff so young? I do say, because we left school maybe like the second week of year 8, second week of high school. So I said, I always asked my mum, what were you thinking? Because, and she was like, do you know what? Because they, you know, she didn't come from that sort of background. She's like, my daughter wants to sing and that's all she wants to do. That's all she wants to do. So as long as I was comfortable with it, there was a period of time when my mum actually literally started working part-time just so she could accompany me every day in the studio, because I was having these like meltdowns where I was really upset, again, not expressing where it's coming from, and really stood by me, prayed for me a lot, you know, and I think
I like to look back on it in a positive way, because I really do believe that it was like the making of me, and I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for those experiences.
I mean, there's probably no point going over why, you know, you left and why you were asked to leave, because that's kind of all been done and dusted.
And I wasn't asked to leave. I was just replaced.
You were just replaced.
I said it was brutal.
But what was your instant and your longer term reaction to that? How did you deal with it?
How did I deal with it? Okay, so first of all, I was embarrassed, and I was also really confused because I thought I had a great relationship. I mean, within 72 hours, it literally went from me being in a room with people who I loved dearly to, you know, weird things sort of happening, and then I was a bit unsure. And then I was told that the group they didn't want to do it anymore, and I thought, oh, okay. So it was a nice conversation, and then it just restarted. So there is a sense of rejection that I felt, if I'm completely honest. But my immediate reaction to that was like, do you know what? Maybe I've said something or done something, and we just need to have a conversation. So I forgive you. So if you look back on a lot of the quotes that I said around that time, it was like, I forgive them. They probably, you know, and I just went into like work. Maybe there's something. Because, you know, there's that thing where you could have a friend who, like, I don't know, you know, like as a kid you grow up and you got that smelly friend in class, but you don't tell them that they kind of smell, but you just allow them to, you know. And I started thinking like I was the smelly friend. I was like, maybe there's something to do with my personality that maybe just rubs people off, and no one told me. So I did like real, you know, deep work. But then later on, through specific actions, legal actions, things started to become very, very clear to me that actually there was other reasons outside of that, and it really wasn't about me. So I had already done all the amazing, like, deep self-work. So I just became a better person just because. More empathy, you know, taking the time to go, actually, Keish, you know, you're quite hard on yourself. And that's the biggest thing I realised, which was a blessing, that I'm my biggest critic. I critique myself pretty hard. And reuniting with the original members, me and Siobhan had quite a tricky relationship growing up. And I realised that the reason why we probably had it is that, first of all, I'm an optimist, she's a pessimist. That's number one. And also, I really feel like my critique, I feel like I'm a very supportive person. Like, I'm like, guys, come on, let's do it. But now I know that with certain personalities, you can't be like, oh, that, you know, let's do it. That was rubbish. We need to do it again. Sometimes it's actually an encouraging word. It's like, do you know what, babe, you did a good job, but I feel like we can do that. And it's changed our relationship just by that, you know? So, yeah.
But you were very, very young.
Exactly.
Weren't you?
I'm not sure how anyone would know that at the age of, 16 or 17.
Exactly, but which is the catch-22. But that's why I feel like I did that learning process, because I genuinely left that band feeling like I'm like not a very good person, and I didn't know what I had done. But then when I found out actually there was other things, I was like, oh, but I did the self-work, which was amazing. So I feel very positive about everything now, I guess. Yeah.
So have that emotional maturity so young. I mean, it's because you're in such a tight, intense
for sure
relationship.
But again, I feel like a lot of it is to do with, even now we have to still talk about, you know, how about the argument you had when you were 14? Yeah. And I'm, I've moved forward. Yeah. I've moved forward.
Still on that?
No one else has to do that in life but a girl band.
Well, I don't know, boy band. There was an incident in the Palace Hotel in Madrid
Was that?
in 1985, but let's not go there.
Oh, God. Okay, you've got to tell me about that later.
Keisha, we've got a lot more to talk about. I want to ask you just very quickly about, I mean, you're still writing songs, and you are also appearing on the Great British Menu for Scotland.
I am, yeah. That was the
well chosen country.
Yeah, I actually, the surname Buchanan, first of all, you know, there's a Scottish background. I've done the ancestry test, and there's definitely Scottish in there. But yeah, I that was the first thing I've ever done by myself, and I've spent a lot of my years like just kind of hibernating and not really doing much, to be honest with you. And I decided last year that I was going to get over my anxiety and depression and things like that I was going through, and I was going to start stepping out and like being brave. So I'm also doing acting as well, and I've gone for auditions, and I told my agent I don't want any freebies, I want to earn my part. So I'm sitting there in the casting room and people are like, are you Keisha? So it's all very new, but I love it because I feel normal, you know I've never really had that normality. So it's amazing. Yeah. Okay.